So, how did Padayatra start?
In 76, what we started was a bullock carts and kirtan. We were traveling with the help of big German buses, but then they had to go. When Prabhupada found out that I was left with no means of transportation, then in New Delhi, in fact, in Lajpat Nagar, Prabhupada was there for Radhastami time. He called me upstairs, and as we were discussing now what to do, I have a group of brahmacharis and now how I should travel. He came up with this idea of bullock carts and kirtan. Probably he knew that I was from a village background. And then we discussed a little, and we went to Vrindavan. As news spread around, devotees came forward with a lot of help. Someone gave us the deities, and devotees gave us parts for cooking. We got some books. We loaded everything in the cart, and then we started our journey from Vrindavan to Mayapur. You want me to get into...
Yeah, you can tell over that.
Well, there are many details. There are many, many details.
Just pick a couple colorful things, realizations, as you will.
When we started from Vrindavan, we wanted Prabhupada to do the inaugural function of our bullock carts and kirtan. In fact, we didn't have a bullock cart there. We picked it up near Agra. We bought it. Till then, we were just getting and hitchhiking, getting farmers to give us the rides from one village to the other. So at the inaugural function, Prabhupada said, you go to the village, and these days people are going from village to town, town to city, and city to London to New York, and New York to the moon. But no one is really happy wherever they are. So you go to the village and give them the taste of the holy name. So this was Prabhupada's order. Increase their ruchi for the holy name, he said. So that's how we got the mission order from Prabhupada, and then we started our journey with no bullock cart in the beginning, and then we managed to get it in Agra. We met Prabhupada in Allahabad at the time of Kumbh Mela. That time is Kumbh Mela, 77 January. We explained to Prabhupada how we came to the village and we started Nagar Kirtan. We went around the village with chanting and also begging. We went door to door, distributing books in Hindi as well as collecting grains. And then we found a camp. Prabhupada's instruction was also that, in India at least, that when we go to the village, we should park next to the well, he said. And he explained that the well is heart of the village, because all people come to the village to fetch water. So you're next to, so you could preach to them. And he also said the water, meaning suchi, will stay clean. So he wanted us always to stay next to the well. He was so concerned, those were winter days, he had also asked us to carry 2 blankets each. He also told us how our cart should have rubber tires. He gave preference to the rubber tired cart, not the other one. So in Allahabad, when he found out how we were doing nicely in the villages, especially how we were begging, that we're depending on Krishna, and inviting people, chanting and speaking to them, and towards the end make them sit down and feed prasad. Prabhupada was so pleased to hear all that his his disciples were doing this kind of service or dependence on Krishna. And then we moved on and ultimately reached Mayapur. And again Prabhupada was there. And when he heard that our party had reached Mayapur, he called us and he wanted to know how was everything and how was the journey. And I told Prabhupada that it was an easy journey to Mayapur planet, Prabhupada, I said. And then he gave us big garlands and big sweets and so much appreciation of what little that we did for him, and that kept us going. And then we decided to keep going, but in the meantime I had invitation from Hyderabad farm to go there and start bullock cart around the Hyderabad farm. And then my team, they were willing to go on without me temporarily on the way to Jagannath Puri. So on the way to Hyderabad, I was in Bombay, and then there was been deviation, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He talked me out of this bullock cart, Kirtan, gave me, of course with Prabhupada's approval, gave me a BBT van, and we started doing bullock, traveling Sankirtan. So in my party, they continued on. Is that you want all this?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
So this is coming to an end.
Yeah.
So they went through Bengal and through Orissa. Now the bulls were from UP, so they had a hard time in UP, in Orissa. They had to just eat a straw, this rice straw, and so they were not keeping good health. One bull ultimately died, and so that was a big struggle. So party managed reaching Bhubaneswar, and then our deities went on their altar, and kind of we stopped there. And then Gaur Govind Maharaj he had a desire to start bullock carts in Orissa, and Prabhupada had approved of that. But then they never managed getting on the road, and so I was wondering how to start it again. Several years passed, and then by the grace of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, as our leaders were now wondering, like in 82-3, what to do for the 5th centennial of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. They came up with this idea of visiting all the places of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And it was proposed that we should walk to these places the way Mahaprabhu walked. We should follow in the footsteps, literally follow in the footsteps of Mahaprabhu. So the whole plan was chalked out, and we decided to start journey from Dwarka. And as I had some experience with Prabhupada's bullock carts and Kirtan, they gave me this assignment of leading or being a servant of this padayatra. So this time it was a padayatra. In the early days, we were not committed to the walking part. So we call it bullock carts and Kirtan. Sometimes we chanted in the front. In the villages we did, but in between villages, we chanted in the front. Sometimes we sat in the cart. Sometimes we were way behind the cart. It was not a formal walking, literal walking, but we did that beginning from 84. And then we walked all over for 18 months and reached Mayapur in 86 or Purnima time.
And of course, when you reached Mayapur, what happened?
Well, there was no way we could have stopped. We didn't stop. We were meant to stop.
You may have to repeat that just with your hand up. Okay.
Well, we were conditioned by, we got into this rhythm. We were on the road. We were happy. Huge success. So we just wanted to, the organizers of Padayatra, we just wanted to continue with it. And we did it.
So you did it by deciding what?
Well, we decided to go up to Vrindavan. And when we went to Vrindavan, we decided to go up to Badrikashram. Then we decided why not go back to Dwarka. Then we decided what about another circle, and that is how we stayed on the road. And it's 10th year in a row that Padayatra, and some of the devotees are constantly 7-8 years on the road. So what they are doing is beyond. It's more than a duty. It's more than obligation. Because they're attached to it now. Devotees, some devotees, padayatras, have reached the stage of attachment. And spiritual entanglement with padayatra, so they are just carrying on. So, wait a minute, I had to...
Well, what are the roots of Padayatra?
The roots for Padayatra's roots are, they go back into the history. And we are not the first ones to organize Padayatra. It's kind of an eternal thing. All the previous acharyas have walked throughout the length and breadth of this country. Ramanujacharya walked. Shankaracharya, he went very extensively, traveling and preaching. And in recent time, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, for 6 years, he was on the road, walking, chanting, dancing. So those are the spiritual roots of this program, Padayatra. But in recent times we also see how it is misused by politicians. And Mahatma Gandhi used it to fight against the Britishers, or so many other politicians even to this day to get the power. They go to the masses walking. Yeah. In the West also, they don't call it Padayatra, but marches against abortion and different issues, social, political issues. So there's Padayatra, these walks, marches are also misused. But what we are trying to do is Yad karosi yadasnasi, tad kurusu madarpana. We're trying to make this as an offering unto the Lord. As a result, it is purifying. And as we chant 16 rounds every day, we have some devotees that are on the road for year after year after year, and they are getting purified and getting attached to this program. You can't stay on unless there is attachment. And we have several devotees. This is their life and soul, and they are ready to go on and on and on. The Padayatra is It's Pada Sevanam. It's one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Especially when we do parikrama, that is Pada Sevanam. And one thing that we have done is we organize these parikramas, and that has given a real taste of life to a lot of devotees. Maybe I change the topics. Maybe I change it.
That was okay. It was all right, but you cut it off.
And because it is done as an offering unto the Lord, it is purifying. And devotees get attached to this process, and as a result, they're ready to go on and on and on. Some devotees are just talking of going back home, back to Godhead, walk their way back to Godhead. They say, "Oh, Lord doesn't have to send a, plane. They will just walk back, save a ride." So some devotees are determined to keep walking till they reach final destination. So this padayatra is like the continuation of Mahaprabhu's walk 500 years ago. At that time he walked within India, but now he's going beyond the boundaries to bring the holy name personally. And Prabhupada is accompanying, so that it's like he also continues to travel. So both of these personalities, Prabhupada and Caitanya Mahaprabhu, are being introduced to the public by padayatras. Is not. I'm stuck.
Okay, just take it from they're coming personally, to each place, giving darshan. Go ahead.
And they're brought to every town, every village, personally, so that people could have their darshan. They don't have to go to another city, another country to see them, but right in front of their door, in fact. The Lord is standing there, and Prabhupada is next to the Lord, and devotees, and chanting, and the books of Prabhupada, and the prasadam. The whole spiritual world is open to wherever padayatra goes. I mean, people have heard probably about Hare Krishnas, but seeing is believing. They are seeing Hare Krishnas and Gauranga Mahaprabhu and the Prabhupada right there. What more could you expect? Does any more? This is the magnanimity. This is the most magnanimous feature of Mahaprabhu, this padayatra. Yeah. In 84, when we started padayatra, the theme that time naturally had to be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's 5th centennial. Then after some years we started walking in America, and the Robin George case was in full swing, and we decided to come forward and make religious freedom as a theme of our walk, and that worked. Then in other countries, like in England, the Save Manor campaign, padayatras made that as a theme. In Malaysia a few years ago, the walk against the drug abuse was the theme. When there was a war, big war, Middle East, what was that?
Iraq.
Okay.
When Iraq?
Yeah, when the war in Iraq, Iran, that devotees in New Zealand, they made the theme, the steps towards peace. And in fact, the last day of their walk was also the last day of the war. And like that, devotees had been using different themes in different countries in the last 9-10 years. And now we want to encourage all the organizers of padayatra to use centennial as a theme till 1996, because this is Prabhupada's padayatra, and it's the 100th birth anniversary of Prabhupada. So this is a current theme, has to be a current theme. We are dedicating this Prabhupada's padayatra into his service, and we are making very intensifying our attempt to increase Prabhupada's awareness. We take Prabhupada's murti form on the card, and people are seeing him face to face. We take his Vani form in the form of his books to the places or remote corners of the world or villages where there's very little chance of any book distributor reaching those places. Distribution of Leelamrit also we want to undertake. As we meet the press, we want to tell them who Prabhupada is and what his contribution to the whole world is, so that they could further communicate with the masses. On some padayatras, all padayatras, we want to have Prabhupada displays of Prabhupada's life and his achievements. Padayatra India, and every night we show this Your Ever Well-Wisher film of Yaduvara Prabhu, and from anywhere between 500 to 1,000 or sometimes thousands of people watch that movie every night, night after night after night. So how many people get to know about Prabhupada. But besides bringing the holy name and books and prasadam to as many towns and villages, helping with Robin George and similar other cases, starting Navadvip Mandal and Braja Mandal Parikramas. I think the single most major accomplishment of Padayatra is that it has helped Prabhupada's family worldwide to strengthen and unite it around Prabhupada. I think it was 4 years ago, I had a talk with Lokanatha Maharaja, and he asked me, so how long Padayatra will stay on the road? And I said, Maharaj, till 1996. I personally thought he would be surprised and pleased and probably appreciate that we have met that target of staying on the road till 1996. But instead, he said, well, bus, only till 1996, not for another 9,500 years. And then I really started thinking. And so from that time, I thought Padayatra also will last as long as Krishna consciousness lasts. That is for another 9,000-10,000 years. So that's one way to explain the future. A few years ago, GBCs, they were going over the mission statements of different monitors within ISKCON, and myself as a Padayatra monitor, when they resolved the mission statement, they said Padayatra to be used as a vehicle to bring the holy name to every town and every village all over the world. So there are lots of towns and villages, so by the time we cover them, it's going to be a lot of time. And then as you asked me of the future, I am also reminded of Prabhupada's communication. He said that we would like to introduce millions of such cards all over the world. So millions of cards Prabhupada desired, so that gives us a lot of scope. It's a big scope. So when Lokanatha Maharaj mentioned about Padayatra for another 9,500 years, and since that time, my way of thinking kind of changed. And I also started thinking, oh yes, Padayatra for another 9,500 years.